Yo, what is up, guys? It's me, Eve, again here, playing Tokyo Ghoul Break the Chains, and today I actually wanted to show you how to do the weekly boss challenges. So what I'm talking about, whenever you join the organization here, you will get to do those weekly challenges. So this is the weekly bosses I'm talking about. And a lot of new players usually don't know how to do it to get a lot of big percentages and are weirded out because like when they do the damage they're like on maybe very low compared to someone who's already done and are very high in terms of damage. So today I'm gonna show to you how to do it. But first of all, we need to understand what type of team should we be using. And usually it's all about one DPS doing as much damage as possible, and everyone else is just there to buff him up and then do the final step to do that big amount of damage. So what I would recommend, obviously, depending on whatever you have in your inventory, in your collection, everyone should be able to have Nico here, a clown. He's the main character basically of this whole story. I would really recommend you use him. Again, on mostly on everything except for maybe whatever he gets, debuffed. If he's not the advantage or neutral type of attribute, then you can switch it up for maybe a Team Hinami again. But this is that Team Hinami is mostly for those who are on older servers. For newer players, this is mostly gonna be Clown all the time, even if he's not the type advantage. So if you have Sen, obviously Sen would be best because you can easily get her skill levels. If you have Uta works as well, but I think Sen is a little bit better just so that you can easily passively get those skill levels compared to Uta. You don't even need to use her. Itori here, again, another incredible support here that you will probably mostly use all the time on this one as well, because she, just by using her active skill, she can buff a lot of basic stats, and that already is a big buff for whatever damage dealer you will pick. So right now I have Akira as my main boss, and you always need to think about the attributes first. Akira is a blue attribute, so we need a type advantage for that. As her type advantage is green, so now you will be going after you finished with your supports here, you're thinking about the DPS, right? So now you're thinking about what green DPS do I have? Mostly you want to pick someone who is a solo target character, not an AoE. Sometimes there's a good AoE characters that are like, for example, Ayato. He can do the damage by himself, but if you're going to do a solo target, mostly solo targets characters will always do more damage to someone other than AoE damage dealers, because again they're focusing only on one, so the damage is going to in them and not for separated to everyone. So for example, I don't recommend using green Ayato, who is gonna be but again, if you have him on like triple S, as well as you have a very good RC cells, he could be a little bit better than other solo targets that are much lower on investments. Again, maybe then you can use him, but mostly for newer players I would recommend Rize again for the green type advantage for now, because that's the only character you will have. Later on, maybe if they put out the Green Toka with the Team Hinami here as a support there, and Green Toka here could actually make a pretty big damage by themselves as well, because she's gonna apply charm on herself, so that's another buff, as well as Sen will apply buff on her, as well as Team Hinami will buff a lot, like she will buff her a lot. So we're done with the DPS, so we'll pick DPS as well. Don't forget that you can exchange, so this is shared characters that you have in your org. I really recommend everyone in your org to go and share your best characters, or characters that you might think will help others. So for example, if you go here, shared characters, you can share your characters here for others in your org to use. So I'm using it. I'm putting here Itori because no one really has Itori on 1 star yet in my org, and that would be a huge help for other people to do the same with. And you definitely want everyone in your org to be as far as you can, because this is where you get the points for your organization, and that will multiply. So if everyone in your organization does well, you will be better in your top rankings here in the org. So I definitely recommend doing that. So again, I'm gonna take some shared characters from here because, for example, my Rize is not as high as, for example, John's here from our org, as well as, for example, I could just take Ghoul's D Sen that is higher than mine, because my Sen's like four stars, I think, or 3 stars, I don't remember. And I'll be looking at something like this. Again, some backup characters for now. Most of the people will only have either Mado as a backup character there, or you will have Yomo. So I would recommend going for Yomo. He's overall really good for anything. Naki is not really needed here because mostly your characters will never die. I guess it depends on how far on the levels are you on, but if you're like around 200, you'll definitely they're not gonna be dying at all. So Naki here is pretty useless. The only other thing that he's got is a pen rate, so I wouldn't recommend using him here. For example, Yomo on the other side buffs a lot, as well as debuffs the enemies too, so he was gonna be much better. But if you're gonna be using, for example, there's gonna be a fight when you will need to use a red type advantage, and for example, if you were putting the red Arima there instead of the Rize here, for example, you can use Maro there as well as a support for him because he buffs his crits, and that would be very nice. As well as the red Amon could be also working in a backup for red Arima, because he also kind of buffs his crits from being in a backup, even though it's not written there. So you can do something like that. So now we can do the fight. Again, ultimates, it depends on what characters you use. Usually you want to go for Might of Awaken because it gives most buff for attack. As well as if you're using any Aogiri here, definitely Might of Awaken. If you're using CCG, it's gonna be either co-op or Twin Smite. It depends on what type of CCG your unit. You can always see what are the buffs here. For example, this the co-op one is for higher rank investigators. For lower rank investigators is the Twin Smite. Again, you can see it all right here on this one. As you can see, lower rank CCG investigators get a little bit of more buffs from using this. And as well as if you're using any Anteiku characters, then use Kagune attack. It gives the best for them. But if you're using someone random, like no orc character, then just use Might of Awaken. I usually recommend using that one because it's kind of gives the at least I still feel like it still gives the best advantage in terms of damage. So okay, let's get into the fight here and see how much we can do. I'm gonna show you the whole fight. I'm gonna try as best. Again, it's a little bit RNG sometimes because it depends on what you draw here. As well as you can see, sometimes it's getting a little bit annoying with this stuff. So Clown is here to do these points as well as buff the damage. So now we have the buffs. We can use all of our stuff here. Okay. Okay, a little bit bad that Itori is dying little by little, but I think we can still do it. Now we can switch stuff so that we have more space, as well as we can prepare for the last turn. Fortunately, Itori died there, but we still have the Clown. Hopefully for the next turn as well, we'll have enough. Okay. Now this time she's not sleeping, so we can put Sen here Clown, one more, and now we can use the Rize on the last minute here. If you had Itori, that would be much better. Only 1 mil again. This is I wasn't really lucky on this one with the draws, as well as I couldn't use Itori much before she died. So like again, this wasn't a perfect run. It's not like sometimes you need to do this like a few times to get the perfect one. But again, it wasn't so bad. I got to number 3, but I definitely can do better than this. You can switch stuff up. You can switch Itori, for example, for someone like Uta here. That would work perfectly fine. If you somehow have Team Hinami as well, also works really good. And other characters like that would also work perfectly. Like any support would work really good here. But I think Itori still is gonna be much better in terms of damage for you, because she gives a lot of basic stats increase, so that's something you're looking forward to. So this was my showcase to you of how to do those weekly challenges. Again, you need to pick the strongest characters in terms of DPS that you can put here. So for example, even if though I have, for example, like let's say Green Ayato, right? He's obviously much better characters than something like Rize, right? But still, I'm gonna pick Rize because Rize is much stronger in terms of solo target, as well as I have her like a little bit more build compared to Green Ayato, and the same goes for whatever you're gonna be taking from other people here as well. Okay, so that was it. Hopefully you liked the video. Don't forget to subscribe, like, leave a comment, as well as join the Discord if you don't want to miss any streams and videos. And I'll see you on the next one.